Bible Club. Eternal life.
It's time to believe in Luke 9.
Crucify my flesh, I'ma beat it to death. Gotta gasp it for breath. Saturday I rest. No more shackles, no more chains. I'm out of my cage. No longer bound, cause I'm no longer a slave. Crucify my flesh, I'ma beat it to death. Gotta gasp it for breath. Saturday I rest. No more shackles, no more chains. I'm out of my cage. Been set free.
Good evening, everybody. This is your host, Huge Pop, from the Huge Pop Entertainment. On tonight's show, we have the true Texas wrestling legend, Rudy Boy Gonzalez. He's a veteran of the ring who competed against icons like Shawn Michaels. His great legacy may be outside of it, as he was a head trainer of Texas Wrestling Academy, where he's helped train some of the biggest names in the industry. Please welcome to the mentor and the legend, Rudy Boy Gonzalez. How you doing, my friend?
How are you doing out there?
Pretty good. So Rudy and I met a little bit ago, probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Well, we've been chatting online for a long time, but finally we got to connect. I'm not gonna let the cat out of the bag, but I asked him to be on the show and talk about his career, and then we have a huge announcement at the end of the show. So we're gonna see how this goes.
I'm excited.
Funny story is we tried this once, and there was some technical difficulties. I don't know whose end it was on. I'm not gonna blame Rudy. I'm not gonna blame myself. It was just weird. So it's one of those things that happened in this podcast world that we roll up the punches. So again, man, I'm gonna ask the same question I asked for the beginning of on Monday. For those who may not know you, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your journey into the world of wrestling?
All right. Well, I started in 1982 with the Blanchards out here in San Antonio, Texas, with Southwest Wrestling, and it was a different world back then. So the only reason I got into wrestling was because my high school football coach knew Joe Blanchard, and I was coming back to San Antonio. I had a 2-year scholarship. Had to come back home because my dad had a stroke, and so in the meantime, until I was going to go back to school, my football coach said I should try and, see if I can train with the local wrestling group that was starting a wrestling school that January. So January 2nd of 82, I walked into the Southwest Wrestling office, and basically Joe just told me, go, you're more than welcome to train here. The plan was I was only going to train for 2 weeks, and 40 something years later, I'm still in the wrestling business.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what happened was I was supposed to be there for 2 weeks and train, but then right before I was supposed to go back to school, I was asked if I could help with the wrestling ring. And so I did. And I don't know, like we were in Corpus Christi, Texas, and my spot was to watch the back door to make sure nobody came running in through the back door. But from where I can sit, I could see all the matches. And I saw, like Tiger Conway Jr. and Tank Patton and the main, and all the matches were great. Dick Slater, all the matches are great. But the match that caught my eye was Tully Blanchard and Wahoo McDaniel. And where I was sitting, they had the old single light above the ring. You couldn't see, the arena was dark, except you could just see the ring. And throughout the match, man, Wahoo and Tully beat each other up, and you could hear the fans, screaming and cheering and booing and the whole 9 yards. And that caught my attention. And so I guess I did a good job. So they asked me if I could help out. That was a Thursday night. They asked me if I could help with the ring Friday and Saturday and Sunday. Friday and Saturday. And I did. And I was supposed to go back to school Sunday, and I didn't. So Monday, I went to the office and sat with Joe Blanchard. And, Joe knew he knew what I was there for. And he knew I was supposed to have gone back to school that Sunday. And so the first thing he told me was, what are you doing here? And I just said, can we talk? And he said, yeah, sit down. So in a nutshell, I basically just told him I want to learn the wrestling business.
Wow.
And you could have heard a pin drop, man. That's not what I was there for. And that's not, he chewed me out. I'm not going to lie. He asked me if, he told me that the wrestling business had nothing to offer me. He said that I would starve.
Wow.
I would sleep in my car. I would have no kind of relationship, no family life. I'd be broke. He gave me the whole doom and gloom of pro wrestling. And he was right. I experienced all that stuff. But I also experienced meeting a bunch of great people and traveling, I trained with so the next thing he did was he gave me a set of keys and he said, go walk the junction, which was the place where we did the TV at.
Okay.
And so that was my next job, was mopping the building. And I trained with some of the guys that were there. Back then we didn't have there wasn't an actual, he had a wrestling school for the kids, but which was in the evenings. But some of the guys like Tony Falk and Bobby Fulton, Ricky Morton, Al Perez and Chavo, Manny Fernandez, they would show up in the afternoon and run around the ring for a little bit, get a workout in, and then leave. And so they'd ask me, if you want to, get in the ring with us, you're more than welcome to. And so I did. And I did that for about 2 years. I helped with the ring. I helped I kept kind of merchandise. I refereed a little bit. You got that?
I think you're froze, but I got the most of it. Yeah. So would you call that what you did in the beginning?
So,
what they made you?
Yeah. So I started wrestling.
Ready? You there?
You broke up. What was that again?
Okay, so my question is, you talked about the what you did with Tony.
Would you call it paying my dues?
Yeah, is that paying your dues? Would you call that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I didn't get paid for what I was doing until later. Then I became dependable, and so Joe gave me a couple of bucks here and there, and then I started getting a check. But that was like after several months. I mean, yeah, I paid my dues. I picked up guys from the airport. Carried guys' bags. Yeah, I paid my dues.
All right, so
put up
when
flyers.
Yeah, everything. Tear down the ring, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you trained under the legendary Shawn Michaels at the Texas Wrestling Academy. What was that experience like?
So what happened was around 98, October, November of 98, I did a show in Laredo, Texas. I got a screwy payoff, and I quit the business. Okay. I saw my envelope, got up, walked out of the place, and I was done. Coincidentally, that week, Shawn called me that he was going to start a wrestling school in April of the following year, and if I was interested in helping him.
Okay.
So I said, sure. And so in April, it was me. In April of 99, it was me, Shawn, Jose Lothario, and a guy named Ken Johnson.
Okay.
And I'm not exactly sure what happened. I mainly kept to myself, but from the get-go, Shawn and Jose had a fallout, and Jose was gone. Okay. And then Shawn and Ken Johnson had a fallout. Months after that, Ken Johnson was gone. A guy named Paul Diamond came in to help but he wasn't much help, so he was gone. And so, and as each guy was leaving, Shawn just pulled me aside and just said, "Hey, now your responsibility is this. Now your responsibility is that." So I wasn't just I wasn't just training the students. I started booking the towns for them. I started booking the talent, the talent, the students on the shows and stuff. Basically, telling, showing the students how to pass out flyers, because I guess there is a trick to it. I never, I just passed them out, but some of the guys would just leave a big stack on the counter at a restaurant, and they're done with 5,000 flyers in an hour, and I'm like, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
So at January of 2001, he re-signed his contract with WWE, and he just told me, "Hey, I'm shutting the school down." And I'm like, "Man, what am I going to do now?" And then he said, "Unless you want it."
Okay.
All right. So I took over the school. And basically all it was he just gave me the keys, and that was it. That was our transaction. That was our transfer.
Wow. That's awesome, man. So you've had some big matches against some big names like Eddie Guerrero, Scott Hall, The Godfather. Is there any particular opponent that I named that stands out to you as one of your favorite moments?
That I get asked that a lot, and it's hard. I mean, one of my favorite matches. Well, I actually have several, but one of them that stands out was a match I had with Larry Zbyszko, and that was around 98, 97. I think it was with WCW at the time or something, and they called me to do the show, and they had me with Larry Zbyszko, and man, I was without saying too much, it was easy, man. He was all pro. He made me look like $1,000,000. Yeah, he beat me. He won the match, but I mean, and in my mind, Larry Zbyszko is like a legend. Wrestled with Bruno Sammartino in New York and Shea Stadium and all this stuff. So that match stands out. I had a match, same thing with Buddy Roberts when he was hot with the Freebird, and same thing, made me look like $1,000,000. Yeah, he won the match, but I had the people were chanting my name after the match.
Wow.
And then the other one, there's like two more. I had a match with one of Brian's students. Same with Brian Kendrick. They're my students, and so you really get to know. Of course, I'm going to say my guys that I train are great guys. Of course, I'm going to say that because those are my guys. Those are my, and I'm not. I mean, I'm going to back them up as much as I can. But it's a whole different deal when you have a match with them and the fans are chanting their name and they're behind them and they're, rooting for him. And when we went with Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy, we did our deal. And after the matches, man, I'm not going to lie. There were times when I would go to the back, find my little, place where I can be alone. And I had tears coming out of my eyes because I never saw myself as a trainer like that. I never saw myself as someone that had so much to give in the wrestling business. And then seeing these guys still around, like Bryan Danielson and Brian Kendrick. Paul London is an agent for MLW. Masada's still running around places. Seeing these guys still doing what they're doing, I feel like I have an idea of what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, you got. I mean, I looked at it. Brian Kendrick, Brian Danielson. That in itself, man, is something to be proud of as a guy. Like, wow. Jalen Stewart just popped in. He says, "Shout out to Coach Jalen. Thank you for coming on the show. Big things are going to happen with our."
Oh yeah,
Rudy.
I mean that's one of my boys. Jalen is a good kid, man. He's one of my new
Maybe we need it.
students. Has been around for about a month or so.
Okay.
He's doing really good. The reason I
You there? All right. So maybe we can get Jalen Stewart on the podcast at a later date. So that'd be fun. So, but
you never know. Exactly.
yeah, so that'd be fun. Maybe Jalen, you can come on a Huge Pop Entertainment show later on down the road. I'd love to hear your stories, man. Your signature move, the super kick. Tell me about that. Was that your? Do you have a different style of super kick than Shawn Michaels, or did you learn from the best?
I actually learned from a guy named Chris Adams.
Okay.
And I think Shawn did also. We were running around the same time, and Chris was that was his deal at back in the day also. And I mean, I was just goofing around. Someone for the longest time, and I'm not complaining one bit, but for the longest time, my finishing move was laying on my back for 3 seconds. And on occasion, a promoter would say, you're going over or whatever, and someone asked me, "What's your finisher?" And I was like, "Super kick." It just came out, and so that's what I did. And the only thing was I didn't know how to. And then I had a VCR or whatever, and I recorded a match with Chris, and I think it was with Kerry Von Erich or something, and Chris gave Kerry Von Erich a super kick and knocked him out of the ring, and so I stopped the tape, rewounded it, and then played again slowly, and I caught Chris slapping his leg, and so I was like, "That's how he does it." That's so. So I started doing the same thing, and then Shawn started doing it also, and but I mean, I'll use whatever I can to win a match. I've done power bombs, I've done arm drags, I've done body slams, whatever works.
All right. So you've been around the business, I think you said, for 42 years. You've got to have a good road story, I'm sure.
There's a couple. I just can't say them on here because I don't know about statute of limitations or anything like that, But I guess I can share. So one day we were driving back from Marble Falls, Texas, and I was with, I believe, Eric Embry and Manny Fernandez, and I think it was Al Perez, drove by us doing, I don't know, the speed limit was like 60 miles an hour. They had to been doing 80. I mean, they went flying by us. And the road from Marble Falls, Texas to San Antonio is Texas Highway 281. It's at that time it was a 2-lane road. So we're driving back, and Manny and Al Perez, they're quite a ways up, and you can see their brake lights flashing, and then they shifted back and forth on the road. And so we thought they wrecked.
Right.
So we get to where they're at, and they're on the side of the road, and there's this huge cow stuck in the windshield. They hit a cow, and back then there was nothing like that. So at the drive to town, get the sheriffs. The sheriff showed up. And I'm not sure how they got the cow. We took off. We left them there, but the
Wow.
sheriff showed up and um, somehow they got the cow out of the windshield.
Wow. A cow on the wheels. Holy cow. Holy smokes. So I was reading down through some of the opponents you had. Bruiser Brody. Bruiser Brody. Holy cow. Tell me about that feud that you had with him.
Tough time. So back when wrestling was real,
Right?
there were guys that they were tough guys, they were mean guys, they were you know, but they were really nice guys. So in this punching and biting and all that stuff, whatever, throwing guys out of the ring and all that stuff. And so I was in a handicap match with him, and the guy my partner, it was me and another guy against Bruiser Brody. My partner was known for being clumsy. So he starts the match off, and they do a couple of things, whatever, and next thing I know, beating the heck out of him. And he does something where he throws him in the corner, and the guy comes running towards him, and then Brody just kicks him right in the head, and his head just jerks back like. And I'm thinking, oh my God, he's in when he tags me in,
Right.
and I mean, yeah, he did some of the stuff. He was pretty rough, but in the wrestling we call it snug. He didn't nothing he did hurt me. And the other guy says, "Hey man, Frank beat the heck out of me. Did he hit you like that? Did he hit you also?" I'm like, no, but I think also it's because a couple of years before, Brody and Abdullah the Butcher had a match here in San Antonio. And all they did their thing, and all they told me, Abby and Brody, all they told me was stay out of the way. Make sure the fans don't get in the way, and you stay out of the way. And so you watch the match. If you watch it on YouTube, you'll see where they're doing whatever it is that they're doing, and I'm off to the side holding fans back and stuff. And then afterwards, he told me thank you. He said, thank you, kid. Appreciate it. Shook my hand, the whole 9 yards, whatever. And ever since then, he's always been really nice to me. He was always. There was a time where Gary Hart Gary Hart put me in a match with him, and he was doing a thing where they carried guys out on the stretcher, and so Gary told Frank Brody, go 7 minutes and just beat him up, and Frank said no. For whatever reason, he said no. He is a good kid. Wow. And the way the finish was, he was supposed to beat me. The referee rings a bell. No, he goes to pin me. The referee counts me down for 3, and the referee rings the bell. I lose the match, and then Brody beats me up some more, and that was it. But Gary Hart fixed it though. He beat me, went to go pin me. Referee counted to 3, and then Brody got up and started beating me up some more. And the referee kept telling him, stop, and then he pushed the referee, and so the referee disqualified Bruiser Brody, and technically I won the match.
So you got to win over the Bruiser Brody.
He didn't have to do that.
Right.
But that was his call.
Wow.
So I remember going to the dressing room, And Gary Hart was like, "What was that, brother?" Telling Frank, and Frank just said, "Hey, I'm not going to squash him." And what am I supposed to say? What am I supposed to do? So I just like put my head down and went to go sit down and change. But what ended up happening on TV was Gary edited the match to where he he um he beat me, he pinned me, and then he's walking around the ring, and the referee's arguing with him, and you hear the bell ring. And so, but there was no disqualification. The TV announcers never said anything about a disqualification or anything. The only ones that really knew were the people at the building.
There you go.
But he was always really cool, man. He was. I was saddened. I was saddened to hear that he died.
Yeah.
But with me, he was always.
Yeah. Great. I had the opportunity to talk to Barbara Goodish, his wife, and that was a good interview. So great guy, great stories about him. So what was the toughest opponent you faced and what made them so challenging?
Um, it might have been maybe 10 years ago, I guess, where I had a match with a kid who was just very, I'm not going to say green because he'd been wrestling. Well, yeah, very green. And he just wanted to do some goofy stuff, and at one point he asked me if he could jump off of the corner. If I was going to be out of the ring, and if while I was out of the ring he could jump on me, I could like do a dive. And I said, "No, man, I don't do that stuff." And so he said, "Okay, brother, okay, no problem, no problem." And then we got in the ring. He drop kicks me. I go out of the ring, and I get it. I stand back up to look for him to see where he's at in the ring, and he's not in the ring. And I look to the side, and he's climbing the corner. And I think to myself, I just told this guy, well, I'm not going to do this. So I waited till he jumped, and he's in the middle of the air, and I moved. And he splat himself on the concrete floor. And then I just picked him up, threw him back in the ring. But he still wanted to do his own thing. He didn't want to, he didn't. And then finally, we finished the match and stuff. And I said, dude, just listen, man. I said, and I asked him, are you okay? He goes, yeah, I'm all right. You moved that away. I said, I told you I wasn't going to do that. And he was like, well, I thought, you could catch me. And I said, no. If I say no, no means no, man. It doesn't mean no, but okay, you can do it. It means no,
Good. Yeah.
Just, and I really shouldn't say that was like my toughest match. Because there's been several guys that have been like that. They just want to do their own thing. They don't understand the concept of telling stories and putting matches together properly.
All right. So you faced Eddie Guerrero in a house show. What was that experience like?
I was doing some stuff with WCW at the time, and they did a show in Phoenix. I think it was Wrestle War or something like that. And so the local TV station, I think they may have the tape. I don't know. But the local TV station actually paid us like, they paid us to do this dark match off of the pay-per-view, and do a lucha style. I've known Chavo at the time. Eddie was running around with a guy named Art Barr in Mexico. Okay. And at that time, man, Eddie was smooth, man. He was a lot smaller than what he was when we saw him on WWE, but very smooth, very easy to work with. Sharing ideas and stuff, and I mean, it was easy to work with him. I mean, I wish we were in a tag team match. I wish we were in a singles match, but I mean, that was still fine though.
Okay. So have you ever wrestled overseas in any other countries?
I've been to Mexico.
All right. Hey,
that's not really overseas, but I've been to Mexico.
Okay. What was that like compared? What's the wrestling style over there compared to wrestling style over here?
they do things a little bit differently at that time. Now it's more now it's more of a hybrid type Mexican American style today, but back then arm have it with the right arm, and I mean there's a so it took some adjusting, but a lot of the guys at that time wanted to come up here to work to wrestle, so they would try and learn the American way of wrestling so they can come up here. And then for me to get by, I need to learn the Mexican way of doing stuff so that I can get by. So I mean, we work, a lot of the guys, we work together. I was able to work with a lot of the guys like Pedro Aguayo and Satanico and Los Brazos, the Villanos, a lot of the main big stars down there. I got to work with them.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it.
Awesome, man. So what's it like serving as a guest coach at the WWE Performance Center and OVW? What was that like? Do you still do stuff like that?
So yeah, I've gone to the PC 3-4 times, I guess. And I mean I'm working with Robbie Brookside, Norman Smiley, Terry Taylor, Sean's there, Matt Bloom. Job is to give my input on or my flavor of whatever, the way I do stuff. But I found myself a lot of times watching and listening, just like the other students, when William Regal would walk in and start talking, and but I mean, it was great, man. A lot of those kids now, they when they introduced me at every class, when they introduced me, you could see those kids grabbing their phones and Googling me or whatever. And, they'd come up later. You were the trainer of Sean's school. You've been wrestling. You wrestled this guy. You wrestled, so a lot of those kids, they're not all of them. They treated me really, really well with respect. And kid that just got re-signed him. And so he came up, he goes, "Do you remember me?" And I'm like, "No, I don't know who you are." And he said, "You wrestled with my dad in Monterey." And I was like, "Really? Who's your dad?" And he said, "El Fantasmo." And I said, "Who are you?" And he said, he goes, "I wrestled in Mexico with Fantasmo Jr. or whatever." And I said, "I was down there in 92 or whatever, 93 or something." He goes, "Yeah, I was about 10 years old." He goes, "I would see you." And yeah, it was like, holy cow. And good kid, man. I mean, when I saw that he left WWE, I was like, man, I hope he, and I knew he would anyway. He would land on his feet somewhere. But then they re-signed him. I mean, he's a really good kid. Angel Garza, I wrestled with I don't know if it's his uncle or I don't know if his dad or not, but I wrestled with his dad also, or his uncle, whatever, in Mexico. But all those kids, man, they're all there to learn and to, I don't think they realize where they're at because, they're in this huge facility, 5 rings, and they're getting paid, I guess $60,000-$70,000. And, some of the kids with previous wrestling experience, they understand, but some of the kids that they signed with that were in college and stuff, they don't understand. They don't understand the grind of driving long distance, training in like my time. It's hot hell. In the wintertime, it's cold. The PC is air conditioned, 70 degrees year round, 6 rings, padded floors, the best trainers you can find. But the actual wrestling training school is what I have. It's just a ring in there, you sweat and you work hard and try and make it, I enjoyed the PC. Every time I go down there, I understand that they're building a new one, and it may be bigger. And if they need extra,
Nice, nice. So, as a trainer and a mentor, what advice would you give to someone looking to break into the wrestling business? You hear my last question?
minutes or so, I mean, it's like a Q&A, and all one kid has to do is ask me one question, and I'll spend the next 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour answering many questions, which is in regards to how do you make it, you know, things they need to do, things they need to look out for. I'm not the end all be all guy. They got to go somewhere else. I'm good for up to a certain point, but then after they have reached a certain point with me, they need to travel. They need to get out there and get used to the drives. They need to get used to budgeting their money. They need to they need to get used to being around unfamiliar people, used to being uncomfortable. They need to learn how to navigate through the wrestling world. I mean, it's very political, and it's always been like that. Um, when I came in, there was really no one around that did that. Everybody was looking out for themselves. If I was a big star, I'm not going to refer some guy to the promoter because that guy may take my spot. Um, but it's not like that no more. Um, guys are helping. I mean, and you got to. Guys are helping each other, and you have to. No one's going to make it in this line of business on their own. Very few do, if they do. So I try and tell guys, just eyes, the old saying, eyes and ears open and your mouth closed. And but at the same time, I tell them ask questions. So you know, travel to get out and get their faces seen. Do stuff like this. Like I'm glad you brought up that kid Jalen possibly coming on here because when I broke in, there were no podcasts. There was Bill Apter maybe, and he would come to the dressing room and talk to Wahoo McDaniel or Bruiser Brody or Dick Slater or Gino Hernandez. He never talked to me, you know.
Well, I
Uh, Potter like some anyway. Get your face out there, let people know who you are. You can share your contact information. I mean, get out there. That's the main thing, guys. Is just get your face out there.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because the Monday show that I was supposed to have you on for the interview, the Monday show is exactly what that is for. Like people like Jalen Stewart, people like the indie guys, some of the legends. You mentioned Larry Zabisco. I've had him on the show. My purpose is everybody out there does reactions to WWE, to AEW, to all that stuff. My heart is to give back to the people that brought me joy as a fan, So if I can provide a platform on a Monday night for these young kids to share their stories and share their ups and downs to get their name out there, I'm glad to do that. That's my main purpose of drop the mic on Monday. Give these guys a chance. So,
Sure.
I mean, you've seen it firsthand before we get into the huge announcement that one of the reasons why we brought you on the show. You've seen firsthand how the industry has impacted the lives of many wrestlers, right? What are your thoughts on how the industry has evolved over the years? Is it gotten better or has it gotten worse?
I just I think And we just talked about this the other day, and it's kind of hard to talk about, but I mean, it is what it is. Nowadays, you see a lot of kids post on their social media. They're taking a step back due to their mental health and stuff like that. They got a lot of things going on, and they want to take a step back, take a deep breath and stuff. And I do it on social media, and then you get the reactions like, "Hey, you'll make it. Hang in there," stuff like that. Um, but but back in the day, back when I was a kid, I usually drove the guys to the towns and stuff, and, and there were many guys that I drove with that and I just talked to my students about this. There are many guys I drove with that um, were sad after a big show when all the crowd is cheering their name and autographs and pictures, and on the way home, it's silence. It's the lights are done are down. There's no fans there, and we're just talking. And guys would open up about how they miss their wives or miss their kids. Um, the wife just left them because they're always on the road and stuff like that. And usually when guys would bring up these stories, would bring up these issues, they were drinking, um, taking pills or whatever. There were many guys that would get to their apartment, and I'd have to shake them and wake them up because they were passed out. Um, and then looking back, then months later or years later, you read about them, passing away at a young age. And I don't know if that's due to, drug use. I don't know. I don't know what their situations were, but I feel like back in the day, you had to hold a lot of stuff in because you weren't you if you if you told somebody, man, I miss my wife and I love her, you're gonna be, the guy's gonna look at you like, come on, man, um, and I feel like guys back then held in a lot of stuff um, instead of being vulnerable. And today, um, guys have they're younger and I don't know if it's by design. I don't know, but they're more open about that. Hey, I need to take some time off. My mental health isn't where it should be. And part of me says, come on. Part of me says, part of me is 1980 Rudy Gonzalez. Come on, dude, toughen up. Stick it out. You can do it. And then part of me is like, take a step back. Take a step back and take a deep breath. In the 80s, this is all we did. We just wrestled. And that's how we made our money. Today, guys, they wrestle on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, but they also juggle their real jobs. Um, they try and juggle their families. One of the things Joe Blander told me back when he chewed me out was, if you plan on having kids, you're going to miss birthdays, you're going to miss get-togethers, you're going to miss family gatherings and stuff, and a lot of us did, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, Steve Austin's talked about the year. Ric Flair, my son was born with an umbilical cord, and I was in Corpus Christi, Texas, wrestling. And to this day, when he gets pissed off enough at me, he'll throw that right at me, and he's not wrong. I mean, I wasn't there when he was born, and that's and I'm not bringing this up, feel sorry for me. It happened with a lot of people because all we did was wrestle, and that's how we made our money. But today, like I said, kids are going to school, they have their jobs, and then they wrestle on Fridays, Saturdays, or Sundays. Uh, I, I've had guys cancel on me because, hey, I can't make the show Saturday because I had a tough week. Make it. And like 1980 tells, Rudy Gonzalez says, dude, you can't cancel. But then, and I think that's how, and that's more accepted now. Guys work, concerned about their mental health. And that's fine, you know. Again, in 1980, Rudy Gonzalez may get pissed, but it's not my mental health that's taking a beating. It's whoever else,
Right.
So from that angle, I think the wrestling business has gotten better.
Okay. Okay. So other than I gotta get his name up here. Other than Jalen Stewart, as a student of yours, is there any other students of yours that are that you've coached that you would suggest that we should keep our eyes out for? Can you hear me?
Um, I mean, he's on the verge. I don't know what the holdup is. Jalen Stewart is a very good kid. I just picked up a girl named Tiara, who is a beast. She has good size. I mean, and she just started 2 days ago, and the whole time I'm sitting there with my mouth open, like, I have a girl named Shania who is very, very, very talented. Also, I have a young man named Ashton who is very talented. Micah, my wife, she helps me train the females, and she's working right now with a girl named Nikki Rivera, that's her, Nikki Fuego, and that's part of as a wrestler. That's part of our progression. Is once you get to a point, you start helping the younger guys, like what you just said. I don't have a podcast. I used to, but I didn't. But my what I want to do on my podcast was bring in the unknowns, and give them exposure. But I think we talked about it before. That's a pain in the butt, man. I think I only did like 7 episodes, and it just caught up with me. So Micah now is helping the females out and guiding them around. Right now, she's in Las Vegas taping WoW. She's on the WoW TV program as Sylvia Sanchez. But I mean, and I try and get the most out of my students. I have kids that come in and say, and I get they want to join, they want to get into pro wrestling. I get it. I get it's their dream. But as a trainer or mentor or whatever you want to call me, it's my responsibility to let them know exactly what they're getting into and not sugarcoat nothing.
Right.
So I've had guys come in and, told me how much they love wrestling and yada, yada, yada. And then after a few weeks, they'll tell me, I'm really not that good. This isn't for me. And I can understand that. But then at the same time, if I want to, which is me, 1982, which is me, I wasn't part of the wrestling business, but I made myself part of the wrestling business. And that was a time when if you didn't know somebody or you weren't related to somebody, you weren't going to get in. But I found a way to get my way in. So with some of these guys that tell me today, I'm not that good, I don't belong, I tell them, make yourself belong, make yourself good. You're the one that that can control that. I can tell you suck, and that's fine.
Right.
Prove me wrong.
Right.
Prove me wrong. is hard, you know.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's what my school is for. You know, I'm not going to be a guy that's going to say, you know what, you suck, dude. I'm going to let you
Right.
figure that out on your own. You know.
Right on. Right on. Well, thanks, man. Thanks, Rudy, for sharing your story. I will say this: I got to promote the indie wrestling promotion that I follow, and I go every other month to their arena, and I do some recording. So, XIW Extreme Impact Wrestling Battle Royal. We're gonna have 8 men, I believe, if not more, battling for a spot, number 1 contenders here in Panama City. XIW, great talent, great promotion. Adrian Whisper is part of that. John Saxon are they're they wrestled back in the day. Damian Wayne
I,
is there. Jackson Slade
I
is
know, I know
there.
John, I know John, I know Damien. Good guys, good guys.
Yeah, yeah. So I fell in love with independent wrestling when I went to their promotion. Unreal of
Right.
how they felt, like how they made you feel like you were part of their story. Just phenomenal.
Right.
So I wanted to share that. Great people. So the huge announcement is everybody's probably waiting to hear about this.
Drum roll.
Starting start drum roll. Brrr, starting on Monday, next Monday, believe that's would be the 13th. A brand new episode. The brand new show is called Drop the Mic Mondays. And my new co-host, he's been sitting in front of us for 51 minutes and 51 seconds, sharing his story. Our new co-host of Drop the Mic Monday is none other than Rudy Boy Gonzalez. So welcome to Huge Pop Entertainment, my friend. I thank you for agreeing to do this. We've been talking, like I said, and I shot him out. I said, "Hey, man, I'd love to hear the history of you. Look like you've got some good connections. Look like you got some good things to say." And I had just asked. I said, "Rudy, would you like to be on the part of a co-host doing a Monday show?" And thank goodness he said yes. Pretty classy lady. Say hello. Subscribe to the channel, please, if you want to. But no, welcome aboard to the Huge Pop Entertainment family, Rudy Gonzalez. I appreciate you coming on. Justin Summers, welcome to the chat, man. I love you, bro. You're an amazing person, man. Thank you for jumping on chat. But Rudy and I have a couple big announcements to make about who's going to be on the show in the next couple weeks. On 10/13, which is next Monday night, 8:30 p.m. Central Time, Sin Bodie is going to be on the show.
Kizarni.
Kizarni. He's going to share some stories about his time in WWE, what he's doing now. That guy's kind of crazy looking. I can't wait to meet him online. It's going to be a fun time. And then
I met Sin several years ago. I brought him down for a show. He had just got released, I think, from WWE. Well, that's the only way I can bring him in. And a pure pro, man. I mean, he was great. He worked with one of my students and guided him along the match. I mean, anything and everything I could have asked for, he did. I mean, it was, and since then we've been friends and we message back and forth. I'll ask him for some, get ideas or just reading some of his stuff. Puts me, I don't claim by any stretch of the imagination that I know everything. So I draw a little bit of knowledge from guys like Sin, like Pritchard, like Les Thatcher, and some of these guys. So I mean, I'm looking forward to and back to the being the co-host. I thank you for even considering having me on here. I see this as a huge honor, but it also gives me a chance to reach out and talk to some of the guys like Sin Bodie. Who's the next guy that we have coming up?
And then November 3rd, we have Rodney Mack.
Rodney Mack from
Rodney
WWE.
Mack. Yeah, dude. So I'm super pumped.
Yeah, and another one. I mean, he's he had his run with WWE, and he's one of the main guys in NWA now. As a matter of fact, down here in San Antonio, He's the head honcho for NWA Texas.
Yeah.
Him and his wife Jazz. And so yeah, same thing. I have a ton of respect for Rodney. I can't wait to talk to him and get some stories out of him as well.
So it's going to be a good time here on, again, this show is called Drop the Mic Mondays. I also will say this. You said something, and I think it planted in my head. I want to try hard. I don't care how much it takes. I want to give these young guys, like at your wrestling school, these indie guys, indie darlings, I want to give them, if we can reach out to them and get them on the show, I want to give them the platform. Legends,
Exactly.
Larry Zbyszko, all those guys, the guys that are willing to come on. I can say this. I have the opportunity to bring in AJ Francis, but he's top dollar, and
Yeah.
I love top dollar. I met him at a wrestling convention. But some of these guys, and I understand, and don't get me wrong, I understand everything that he says. But he comes with the fee, and a fee that I can't afford. And I told him this the other day. I'm humbled. Thank you for being honest with me. But I can't, I'm not making billions of dollars like Teddy Long is on his podcast. I'm a guy that shoots it straight from the hip. Rodney or Rudy's on, we'll get there. We'll be big, and I think that we're taking a step in the right direction. I'm excited to have you on the part of the team, Rudy, and I can't wait to get rolling. We got,
with some of these guys that, and I'm not knocking nobody that ask for fees. That's fine. I mean, we're in the business to make money. But one day, man, those fans aren't going to be there, and, a lot of guys have learned that the hard way. And so these fees, you might want to, like I've done many podcasts. I've never asked for a dime. It's an honor. It's a privilege. The way I see it, it's a privilege for someone like you to take your time. And oh, by the way, your wife is very sick. But you're taking the time to bring us to do this and to have me on and Rodney and Sin Bodie and whoever else we bring, So, I greatly, and I'm sure the other two gentlemen as well, I greatly appreciate to be asked to come on here and to, as a partner, thank you very much. No, thank you. And I'll do whatever I can on my end to, bring in some guests. A lot of kids around here know that, I don't play the politic game. If you want to expand your horizons, then I'll do what I can. Here's a good platform to do it on. So once again, thank you and for having me on here.
Thank you, sir. Self. I'm going to close with the exit video. Don't go anywhere. I'd like to talk to you after the show, so stay tuned, okay? So Huge Pop Entertainment Monday nights. It's called Drop the Mic Mondays. Our co-host Rudy Boy Gonzalez, your boy Huge Pop. Check us out every Monday, 8:30 p.m. Central. And again, Huge Pop Wrestling Podcast, Huge Pop Entertainment. We're 4